We'll get underway and move on to item number 22, which is the South Shore and South New Brighton Earthquake Legacy Project. And I think staff have got a PowerPoint presentation for us. We've had a deputation on this morning.
Thank you. The report in front of you responds to a number of resolutions that were made in August of last year, and staff have been working for the past year to bring this work before you today. This has been work from across the organisation, so in front of you is staff representing various units, and we have a PowerPoint presentation to run through and then available to take questions. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm sure everyone's well aware of the lengthy history around the earthquake legacy issues that have affected the South Shore and South New Brighton communities, and the, I guess, transition of those issues from agency to agency over time. And in May last year, Council assumed responsibility for addressing those earthquake legacy issues in advance of undertaking the Coastal Hazards Adaptation Programme, which is something we discussed yesterday. As the South Shore Residents Association referenced this morning, the communities have been referencing or raising concerns about people's wellbeing and the ongoing sense of uncertainty as these issues have taken so long to be resolved. And as mentioned, in May last year, the Council sought some responses to those. We engaged with the community between May and August last year. We undertook a community assessment. We got around about 373 responses from the community, and that led to our recommendations last year in August. Since August, we have been undertaking some works. So there's been a setback bund constructed in the Bridge Street to School area. That's the southern part of that bund has been constructed already, and the northern part will start after lizard nesting season. There's been a condition assessment of the stop bank, and there's been some repairs to the estuary walkway. The issues we're going to be talking to you about today are ones in which we were instructed to undertake further investigation or design works. I'll pass it over to Tom.
So we'll talk about the two separate areas, South Shore and then South New Brighton. In both areas there's two issues, erosion and inundation, and I'll speak to South Shore first, and Kelly will speak to South New Brighton with regards to erosion. I'll speak again about inundation in that area. So with regards to erosion in South Shore, there's a range of existing erosion treatments along that edge that have been installed over a number of periods of time that are in varied states of repair, and the proposed approach as set out in the report is to take a unit by unit approach, primarily focused on rock revetment, but in one particular unit where there is some valuable edge vegetation to install a cobble beach and some offshore rock revetment. This is proposed or recommended by staff rather than the alternative, which was the prioritised repair, which is more a structure by structure approach, which we have lower confidence in. In terms of inundation, the proposed approach is to construct a new bund immediately adjacent, where possible, to the Linz bund, or immediately behind, I should say. The other option we considered would be to set that bund back further into the regeneration area there, but we considered that the existing land use was of value to the community, and there's a strong community preference there for keeping it close to the edge, and the engineering preferences weren't strong with that regard. The bund itself would be built out of engineering material and beyond the 5 metre setback that's proposed from the erosion treatment at the edge. This bund will provide benefit to about 450 properties in South Shore, and you'll find that same number when I talk soon about South New Brighton, because it acts like one sort of potentially one large flood cell, and the water can transfer between the two, so that 450 homes reflects both South Shore and South New Brighton risk. There is residual risk, of course, within the engineering intervention with regards to both the erosion and the inundation. They're designed for a 20-year design life, so if we get a large event greater than, say, a 50-year storm, we might expect to see some damage and some overtopping, or should we get a future earthquake or some such. So there is some residual risk there associated with community expectation.
Okay. In South New Brighton, with regard to the erosion, we have taken the August 19 resolution to restore the estuary edge, and we've progressed to a more detailed design of how to achieve the intended erosion protection in the most practical manner. So just to note that this is not about the flood protection, this is purely about the erosion management. So we're noting that the environment has obviously changed post-earthquakes, and so it does require a slightly different approach to what was previously there. And so what's being proposed is that in areas where erosion is occurring behind the previous Reno mattress, we're proposing to encase that with unconfined cobbles, and that will achieve the same level of erosion protection that was there pre-earthquakes. In the steeper areas where the beach comes in and then it's quite a steep bank, the treatment there will involve reinforcing the existing Reno that's still there with some rock armouring. And then in the areas where the profile of the land has changed quite dramatically and there's a beach forming, we're proposing to stabilise that with cobbles and also to try and establish some salt marsh to get that area nice and stable. And the salt marsh will be protected by a breakwater using the remaining Reno mattress that is now sitting offshore. So based on the resolution and the engineering advice that we've got, we think this is the best method of achieving the intention of the previous council resolution for erosion protection. It's also the approach that's most likely to gain resource consent when we consider the cultural values, the natural character and the ecological values of the area. And it's also adaptable. It's something that we can continue with and adapt as we go into the conversation about climate change. And so Tom will just talk about the inundation and flooding options.
Thank you. So for inundation in this area, we are proposing a bund in order to manage the flood risk to those same properties that I mentioned earlier, because there is a potential for overland flow to pass through the campground and down into South New Brighton as far as South Shore. That bund is proposed to be set back from the edge in this instance, and which is consistent with the reserves development plan. There will be impacts of the bund. Tree removals will be required. We haven't settled on a number there, but that is something we'll have to evaluate as the design progresses, should you be wanting to progress this option. The bund itself would be constructed to a height of 11.5 in order to achieve the design height of 11.4. And the setback bund allows us to connect higher pieces of land. So overall, we believe the earthworks would be lower if we set it back from the stretch.
So moving on to the implications for the coming long-term plan. The council resolutions, a number of them reference that funding should be prioritised with urgency for these pieces of work once the investigations had concluded. That was in the pre-COVID environment. Obviously, we're in the post-COVID environment now, and there's a process underway with the long-term plan and the prioritisation of programs within it. We are recommending as staff that these pieces of work should be progressed as a bundle across the South Shore, South New Brighton area. And the main reasons for that are that there are interdependencies in the effectiveness of the works in between the areas and between the works within the areas. We've also undertaken a high-level assessment of whether there might be some cost efficiencies in delivering the works in a coordinated way, and we are able to estimate around about a $280,000 savings in delivering those works together. There are also some significant, probably staff time savings in doing so as well. This slide really relates to the prioritisation of the bundle of works against other pieces of work that the council will be considering as you progress your LTP. We just wanted to bring to your attention the significant efforts that have been undertaken over the last year to rebuild trust with the community and meet their expectations of delivery of this piece of work. Some commitments were made in August last year, and the community is very much hoping that those are honoured. As mentioned before, there have been some concerns raised about wellbeing due to the ongoing uncertainty, and the long-standing nature of these issues, we believe, requires a decisive resolution. We also have noted, and it has been discussed already, that the delivery of these works will be necessary to ensure that we can move into that coastal hazards adaptation planning conversation that we're looking to have. So lastly, this was a table that was in the council report, but it has been slightly amended. So in the council report, there was a slightly greater shortfall. The proposed, the draft LTP proposals have been amended to the second part of that. Three Waters have now increased the amount allocated in the draft LTP to 6.1 million. So we're now looking at only a $900,000 shortfall in the current draft LTP. That was accurate yesterday. That's it.
If I may, I'm just going through this process. We've obviously engaged significantly with the community, and I just want to thank the community for engaging with us on this work, and also particularly the community board, who we've worked with and engaged with on a regular basis, and Gary Tier as well individually, who was nominated by the South Shore Residents Association as their technical expert. Thank you.
Thank you. So just a couple of questions. Was Gary Tier, did he only look at the South Shore aspects?
Yes.
So he didn't look at the South New Brighton ones?
No, the resolution was only for South Shore, and that's he was nominated by the South Shore Residents Association, so that was the scope of his work.
Right. And can you just run through, because obviously there's some people from South New Brighton have kind of looked at the implementation of the resolution and seen that there are some differences in terms of the way the resolution was passed last year, which I recall was negotiated out the back during a quick recess in order to try and find a resolution. But this is a slightly different one after the engineering analysis has been done. And so if you'd like to just walk us through that so that councillors are really comfortable that the issue's been looked at thoroughly.
Yes, so we took the resolution that was passed last year, and staff have been doing work, and we believe there was a couple of issues there. One was the gabion baskets. There were no gabion baskets in place previously, and the second aspect was as the work was done to investigate what the best options were there, we believe we've come up with the appropriate options that meet the intent of that resolution.
Okay. So, and from an engineering point of view, that the resolution wasn't able to be, I mean, it was as I say, a cobbled together, this is cobbled now in a different way, but resolution to try and get the movement done. But you've now done the assessment.
That's
and
correct.
It is right.
Yes, so we've done the assessment, we've considered the resolution, we've done the assessment, and where we are now is where we is the best place we can get to.
Right, that's good. Thank you. Did anyone else have any questions? Would someone like to move this? James, seconded by Phil. Is there any debate? James?
Okay. I just wanted to note that the community, the coastal community in particular, will be watching this right now. I'm surprised that there aren't more here right now, but maybe it's just a timing issue. But there's been a lot of feedback over the last few days, and I've responded with those who have contacted me directly and personally, whether it be in the street or via phone or email. And I just want to address a couple of the issues that have been raised. Firstly, though, I'll acknowledge the community in the sense that they've been through a lot, in particular over the last 5 years or so, and I'm talking about the South New Brighton and South Shore communities, but they have engaged and we've had good feedback. I also want to acknowledge the community board, as staff did, and the council staff themselves, because for the last 5 years or so, it's been quite a tough topic for our staff to work on, and particularly in the last 12 or so months since the resolution in August last year. So we've gotten to this point here where part of the feedback, and I'll be frank, some opposition has been to the recommendation that doesn't specifically state the Gabion baskets and Reno mattresses. And I just want to assure anyone who cares about this, and our community does, that we have considered this as council and as community board and as council staff, and I believe that this is a stronger and better engineering solution for the issues that we have down there. So I'll put that on the table as I move this motion and leave the debate at that.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Phil?
Yeah, I totally agree with James. Even though it's not word for word what was in there last year, these guys have really put the effort in and have adjusted things or redesigned it, and I'm full confidence that it's going to work well. So I can't wait to get on with it. Thank you.
Well, I'm not going to say anything after hearing you say that, so I will put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Much appreciated.